So thank you everybody for watching this next video in the Method Symposium for the Stories of Change Signature Research Area. So today I have Surayan Mukherjee from the Intermedia Research Studio. So thank you so much for joining us today to discuss the studio and all of its great opportunities that it has for researchers. So I'll just pop into the first question. So in 3 sentences or less, what does the Intermedia Research Studio do?
Sure. We have a kind of threefold research mandate. So the first thing is about decolonizing the social sciences. Now, the standard story that the discipline tells about itself is that the social sciences and sociology in particular sort of sprung from the brow of Durkheim and Weber. And then after the Second World War, after 1968, Marx was added to that list. But in fact, historically, the social sciences it's deeply connected to the project of colonialism, first in Ireland in the 17th century, and then in the so-called New World after that. And as a consequence of that, one of the main things that the social sciences, its biggest impact in the world, has in fact been kind of the refinement and elaboration of racism that was invented first as anti-Black racism, but then turned into the kind of immensely plastic form of racism that we now have in the world, where it can take many, many different kinds of forms, right? So one of the first things that the studio really does is that to rethink this history, which after the social sciences were reinvented after the Second World War, this was largely swept under the carpet. And as a result, some of the biggest stories that the social sciences work with, as well as the grammar through which it does its work, its thinking, its conceptualization, and so on. It needs to come to terms with this history because there's all kinds of unacknowledged legacies that shape the way we do our work. And so that's the first thing. The second aspect of this is that virtually every aspect of social life now is mediated by the communication ecology that we're immersed in, and the studio, draws upon Canadian communication theory, but many other resources to sort of in rethinking this kind of grammar that we've inherited from the past, this legacy, uses some of these other kinds of resources and theoretical insights to think about what might the social sciences be like in a post-Gutenberg world, right? So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is that one of the remarkable things about our present, one of the more hopeful things about our present, rather, in comparison to the otherwise very dreadful and horrifying situation that the world is in right now, is the fact that there's been a resurgence of social movements that are seeking to regenerate and defend various kinds of commons, from forests and rivers all the way through to knowledge, language, energy, a wide range of things like that. And so for us, that gives us a way for us to really rethink what class politics and its relationship to other forms of oppression, how to think about that in the present, which we argue is, desperately needed to be done in the present. So those are the three big things that orient what we do.
Fantastic, that's amazing, and it sounds like incredibly important research, especially today, so that's wonderful. I guess moving on to our next question, we have, what kinds of stories can the Intermedia Research Studio help to tell, leveraging your unique skills and resources?
Sure. Well, I would say that some of the stories that we kind of prioritize in this regard is stories that have to do with anti-racism work, decolonization work, mostly because these are research practices and politics that need more space in our university and so on. So they have a certain kind of priority in terms of the work that we do. Along with that, renewable energy transition is something that is, a topic that we look at quite a lot. Anti-fascist popular culture is something that we're going to be looking at in greater, much more so. It's incredibly important now as well. So these are some of the stories.
Fantastic, awesome, incredible. And moving on to our next question, what do you wish that U of A researchers, both students and faculty, knew about the Intermedia Research Studio that might not be obvious from your website?
Yeah, thanks for this question. It's I think that the main thing here is this amazing community of colleagues, both faculty and students, and many, many long-time friends that we have, but also an ever kind of growing network of research collaborators in various ways. And we're part of a number of sort of research clusters. The story. I'm not sure if we're formally part of the Stories of Change network or not, but several of the other ones, the research creation one, the mediating science and technology is one, and the digital synergies network as well. And this gives us a really profound kind of capacity to mentor various kinds of projects that are both cutting edge, but also transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary because of this great network of colleagues, students, faculty that are our friends. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely. Having all those different clouds and connections definitely is really great for mediating all those different um, uh, recreational activities. Wonderful. So our next question is, can you give one real life example of the Intermedia Research Studio helping to tell an important story with U of A researchers?
Yeah, I guess I'll talk about one story that is a project that's in very early stages of development, but I think it's an important story, which is that basically the story is this, that platform capitalism and the so-called gig economy is not the only possible fate that awaits us in this regard. So we're working on a project that's kind of looking at the ways in which platform cooperativism, like how we could sort of set up sort of the seeds of various kinds of platform cooperatives, and how that might help us really democratize the economy. So that's a big story of change that we're working on.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it's so topical as well and such an important topic in like our society right now. So that's absolutely wonderful. And perfect. So our final question today is, what is the best way for researchers to learn more about the Intermedia Research Studio or to get into contact with the studio?
Sure. One of the best ways is to come to events once we are back sort of live kind of thing, is to come to events and activities that we organize. We'd love to see people there always. Other ways to contact the studio and get to know what's going on there is by either contacting me directly through email or visiting the site and seeing what's going on and that kind of thing, the website.
Awesome. Perfect. And that'll wrap up our little interview today. So thank you again so much for taking the time to talk about the Intermedia Research Studio and a little bit about it. I think it's a wonderful initiative, definitely something for researchers to check out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me here and doing all of this. I look forward to hearing the other stories. Yeah.